Hello, everyone. Alan Andres here, founder of ZuCoins and ZuCas. Absolute thrill and pleasure again. Good to see all the gangs back together. This is It's ZuTime. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 5, season 2. And I've simply called it today, being the first episode for 2022, It's Time. And we will reveal exactly why it's time. But firstly, let's get out some bits and pieces, everybody. G'day to all our friends and supporters and fans and all those who've been hanging in there and waiting. 2022 is going to be our year, and your good wishes and support to the support staff, to the entire crew was just phenomenal over the break, I can tell you. Not that all of us went on break, but I'm hoping everybody had a nice festive season. Took time off with family and friends and battled the COVID elements as best you could with what's rampaging around the world. But we keep going. And I know one man in particular who did exactly that, Robert Novak. He had probably only half a day off. He met Santa Claus. He did those little trinket things with the family for a little bit. And then he went straight back into the den of coding over that entire period. So without further ado, let's bring on Robert Novak, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is.
Hello, everyone.
G'day, everybody. As you know, Robert Novak, he is the creator, the inventor, the extraordinaire of ZuCoins and everything we've talked about. So, Rob, fantastic to see you live here for everybody. We didn't sort of plan this out, but we got some big news to share, so we thought we'd get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So, and thank you very much for I know how busy you've been over that journey, Rob. I'm surprised you're still awake. It's a fair call. You had a tough time.
Gosh, you can really see the black under my eyes here, but yeah. yeah. It's been a long couple of months.
Well, look, we're going to deep dive into a couple of those elements. And first one is we had a little chat on the 24th of December, which was that episode number 4. And we talked about, the old hare and the turtle always wins in the end, as we know, Rob. Just enlighten us to your busy 4 or 5 weeks of program as we start to reveal what we're going to do with the another batch of test wallets going out.
Yeah, so really, you talk about last 4 or 5 weeks or the next 4 or 5 weeks?
No, the last 4, Rob. So we know we're up to.
Yeah, the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's basically been finalizing a bunch of changes we started making back in October. Kind of just finalizing all that into the new app, new system that's been overhauled. It's going pretty good. Nothing that's been major. As the internal team knows, we get the product team sends out updates pretty much at the end of every week. Everything's been going pretty smoothly. It's just a huge amount of work. I don't know if anyone ever sees these updates that Alan and some of the product team gets. They're sometimes up to 20 pages long every single week. So it's been full steam ahead. It's going good, smoothly. No major issues. But yeah, we've gone pretty far into this brand new approach the last few months.
I mean, you say that lightly, Rob, but I do methodically read that through and occasionally try and expand my depth of knowledge with some of the stuff you send, and I fall flat. But one day we will compile those documents into a book, because it's a phenomenal amount of not just research and stuff that you do, but also the ingenuity with which you apply the code to achieve the outcome. So for that, we thank you on that, Rob, and all will be revealed. We don't want too many secrets out at this stage, Rob, but certainly the outcome is what everybody's interested in. So, Rob, we had a chat this morning, and we're on the same page. Our strategy, which you might talk about, and I'll share about the reasoning why we've talked about 43 wallets going out next week. But you might just explain to those particular people that we're going to do that with the updates, what that entails as a result of the actual transaction process you'll be monitoring as we now release version 77.
Yeah, so basically next week we'll start rolling out this new sort of wallet, Test Group 5, into a whole bunch of new people. We'll start as usual with a few people in the office and then expand it out onwards to more and more people. We'll see how that goes, and we keep rinsing and repeating that process until everybody's happy. And then we can roll it out to more people and just keep repeating that process.
So I mean, we like to think that this next batch really is the heavy lifters that are going to give it a big whirl because of the nature of the actual transaction flow itself. So, do you want to just deep dive a little bit into that, what you've achieved with that code, Rob, as to the 8 steps now that you've succeeded with, and how that look and feel of that with these people next week?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit different. The app, like we've said in past podcasts and past sort of releases, that it will look very similar, but there are a few key changes. One of the big changes we made last few months was that transactions are now real time, and like actually real time, which no other system right now is doing. Everything goes into a queue in every other system out there. Which what that means is basically you'll get like a little code. You know, when you log into a website and you get like a little 6-digit code that says you have to use this code within a few seconds or whatever. It'll be something like that, but a bit longer. The code you'll get will be quite a bit. It'll be a chunky piece of code that you get sent every transaction, and you basically just copy that into the app, you paste it, and that'll kick off the transaction process. The reason why we do that is that we know that the transaction's actually happening at that time. So it means we can get rid of a lot of other stuff that queues up huge amounts of resources and load across the network by doing this sort of a one-time code that makes it real time.
And the bottom line of that is that in the testing of the last many months, that really sticks to our mandate of the true peer-to-peer and the peers. Just to explain now that gives some more certainty to both the sender and receiver. Some of the issues we had earlier on the SMS. Just take me through the nature of that transaction and how you've solved that problem now with the testing you've completed.
Yeah, so basically right now, the person you're sending something to will get it through SMS or some other method, email or whatever. But right now in the app, we're just focusing on SMS because it's on a phone, it's more natural. And basically the receiver will look at that transaction. It'll be pending for a little while. Like I said, you have a time deadline to act on that message, that transaction, and then you can basically confirm it. And from that point, you haven't actually touched the network up until that point. So anybody else on the network has never even known about what's happening. And all you really do on the network without all the other people on the network is really just to confirm whether or not you're actually allowed to do that thing at that point in time. So to stop people trying to spend, two things at once and stuff like that, double spend, the classic sort of double spend attack. So the whole network, it just comes out on the end there as that process. So the rest of the process is just between basically people sending SMSs to each other or emails to each other. And things work pretty good.
So in that little step there, Rob, you've solved the problem there in terms of the way the network responds and the peers through time locks. Can you just touch on that little component?
Well, time locks is a whole new component that we haven't really seen any system use up to this point. It's very tricky to test actually because everything's time sensitive. So when you're testing the system, like you've got 40 seconds to figure out what you're testing. So it's a high stress testing environment, but it's good because it means things have to clear within 40 seconds to a minute normally. Worst case scenario, 2 minutes, but that's still very rare. Most of the time it will clear in 40 seconds. The whole thing with time locks is that you basically can prove that something happened in a certain amount of time. So there are some other projects that are trying to use that sort of a time system in their projects, but they're doing it very, very differently, and they still use history. The upside of time locks is that we don't have a huge amount of backdating history that we need to go through to verify things.
And that was a crucial part of the earlier testing, going back to some of the earlier versions that we wanted to see, that you were removing or eliminating that transactional clog or backlog, which is what is inherent in the blockchain world scenarios today. And we've talked at length about this with the way in which that works with Ethereum and blockchain, Bitcoin rather. You've narrowed it down to now successfully succeeding with, is it two-step process now, just with the 2 steps of transactions you're maintaining? You don't need the whole history. How have you?
It's only 2 steps. Behind the scenes, there's eight sort of things that happen, but it's really just a 2-step transaction between the sender and receiver. And then a network propagation, we consider that part of the receiver because it's just part of that second step. But in the prior system, we had the prior versions. That was a 1-step transaction, which was technically more efficient, but it was more prone to people missing stuff. So that's why we had some phones out there. We had like 5% of people in our test groups of a few hundred people actually just not being able to find a transaction on the network. And that's just because of that nature of a one-way transaction. With the 2-way transaction that we've got now, it's the receiver actually verifying something at the time it's happening. So it's much more reliable in terms of a distributed network in finding things when you need to find it. The other thing as well, we should probably focus why no history or very, very short history is an important thing. It's that the more history you have on the network, so if every other blockchain out there right now keeps a history back to the beginning, any of the big ones, any of the top 50, they all keep a history of what you're doing back to the beginning since when that system started, when it was launched. The downside of that is every single transaction consumes data on the network, and that eventually means that a smaller and smaller amount of people will actually be able to host that data and run it, because it's so much of it. There's such a huge volume of data to actually process. One of the things to make a system really, really approachable for anyone to kind of participate in is to keep that data very, very small. That footprint has to be small. And that's a hard challenge. Like I said, we've spent the last 3 months just testing this one approach that just deals with this. And we tried lots of other things as well before that time. But the upside of this is more people can actually participate in this network without needing high-end machines. And that's, we talked about this before with decentralization. Like, so many people sort of twist that word, but really having a proper decentralized system that is that anyone really can participate in without needing some crazy powerful machines is really hard to do, because you end up creating really some odd incentives by its nature.
And the same with the conclusion of that being that really the innovation being the balancing, the totaling has been a major breakthrough to make sure this evolves into the globalized, decentralized network that we want.
Yeah, totaling is a part of that. Totaling is just another way that falls under the history category. So we figured out a way, rather than tracking all the coins and all that sort of stuff, you can just kind of track totals. It sounds simple. It's very hard to implement reliably. But yeah, that was one of another improvements we made on the network. That was about 6 months ago, that one. But that was one of the key important ones that led to this later set of changes of one-time transactions.
Well, for me, Rob, knowing how hard you've worked and where we sit as at the 21st of January 2022, it's a fairly massive milestone event, because it's one thing to talk about those components, those software changes and the testing you've been doing, and I know you work incredibly long hours as you've been testing. I mean, for us to test it, really, it's only a reflection that you say it's green lighted and will work anyway, I guess, to a certain extent, although you do find bits and pieces, as we've seen with some of the user experiences, different to the actual code, which is what you want to do. So from where we sit today, we've made the call that we're going to, and I'm going to share with everybody how I've managed to find the number of 43 wonderful critters out there that are going to get wallets, version 77 next week, what we expect from you, boys and girls. Look, it's a bit of tongue in cheek when you hear how I've come up with this, and it probably it makes a few people laugh, and it'll bottom line, it'll piss a few people off. But nevertheless, it's what I'd like to do, Rob, and you'll get the worst of the best, if you like, on that testing. So I'll talk about that in a minute, how we're going to pull those people together. But the objective then, Rob, is you've got over the weekends, I understand it, there's logging controls that you've expanded and expanding so that you can, as you built into that in the last few weeks, you're pretty well on top of watching where things may or may go wrong. Is that correct?
Yeah, we pretty much know from testing so far. We know what we need to monitor, what we don't need to monitor. Most of our focus will be on parts of the network itself, not the apps that people are using. We'll monitor that if we need to, but right now it doesn't seem like it's something we need to do. But yeah, it's basically just setting up logging. Some people have requested some small features on the app in the past couple of weeks, so we'll work that in next week as well. But that's about it.
And Rob, one of the things that we touched on as well is that there's two types of things happening in parallel. One is obviously you're working, beavering behind the scenes and wanting to achieve the greatness that we see and that others haven't done in this space, the crypto space. And on the flip side, you see that my team, and to a lesser extent yourself, but we do take a lot of hits from people that are the naysayers and the negatives out there, and trying to barrel everybody into one big pit called the scamming modeling. That can be quite upsetting for a lot of people. I know you've sort of stepped away from that a bit, but you wanted to have a few words about what it means not to look at quick buck artists and doing the hard yards. So as a developer, it's important people sort of get a perspective from how you think about that and what people should step back and think.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. We always invite people if people are want to see what we're doing day to day. They can very much see what we're doing. Like you can organize a time with the guys in the office and come by and we can show you how the system works behind the scenes. Like if you want to have a look at that side of stuff, we can show you. It's extremely complicated work. A lot of cryptography, a lot of black screens with white text on it. But one of the things you mentioned exactly on that point is that we're not doing this for a quick clip. We're not doing this for those people who are looking at this for a get rich quick scheme. That's pretty ripe right now in the industry of NFTs, especially. Like there's literally people selling NFTs and disappearing. We're not focusing on that. Obviously, a lot of us have been with this company for quite a long time now. We're here because we want to build something that will be basis for an infrastructure for lots of things in the future, especially for Web3. So for those who are looking for a get rich quick sort of a flipping project with coins, this is probably not the project for you. We're here to build infrastructure for the web for the future.
And the price, as I've said in earlier episodes, Rob, the maths is very simple. You build that, it's the old saying, in the days of Rome, build and they will come. So
Yeah.
that's where you then, you've got the sustainability, you've got the scalability, you've got the efficiencies and speed. And as I've said to everybody, and I'll say it again, go and look at my earlier, formulas in relation to the quantity theory of money. Those sort of scenarios that you have mass adoption, mass take up, and mass transactions, the pricing will take care of itself. And I stand by it. If you've got, no matter what price Bitcoin is, it's going down. But who cares if it's at 10,000? 20% of 10,000 is still a lot of money if you look at our ratio of coins to Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's a good point. And like we focus on when it comes to decentralized stuff, it's a word I don't like using because like every decision you make can very easily have an unintended consequence on these systems. Like if you start to preference users that do a lot of transactions and you have a reputation that's built up, which is what a lot of people are looking at right now in these new layer ones networks that are coming out, they have incentives built in that will just cause the same kind of concentration of power. So to have a proper decentralized system where anyone can participate in and no one can kind of abuse the system is really hard. It's something we spend most of our time thinking about. That's the actual hard stuff. Like that sort of stuff is hard. How do you make like the one person telling the truth survive on a network that's got no central authority? It's like a really hard problem. But yeah, that's really what it comes down to is how productive will the system make people? That's kind of the goal of Web3. With the whole point of Web3 is to really reduce the distance between people who need funding and people who are doing stuff with that funding, something productive. So we're at the forefront of that. So that's quite good. With some of the plans that you've got lined up as well, you probably even haven't mentioned to the people that we've got planned the next 6 months, but there's a lot of stuff coming that's going to move the coin from speculation to productivity based, which is what it really needs to be.
And Rob, you just briefly touched on there about the scenario in terms of the way in which the truths that are there, and what for people out there that want to understand that it's removing that control element by third parties that can make or break things within the network, as in blocking transactions or stopping things. And I was amazed when you sent me over the holiday break that screenshot of that one line that people seem to have failed to have seen in Satoshi's paper. Can you just tell everybody the significance of that one line and what that means as to where we're at and how we've solved the problem both there, and also the follow-up with that was the founder of Signal and the issues he raised with that overlap and how that impacts on NFTs.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff, but people don't seem to, especially the crypto media, no one seems to focus on it. I'm guessing everyone's got too much incentive involved to actually focus on it, to hide it and bury it. But right now, every major crypto system right now has a big flaw in terms of that you can block individual transactions from people. Like the solution that was in the original Bitcoin forum posts for that was basically that if you have transaction fees, people will be incentivized not to block things. But that works at scale. Like obviously, if you have 1 million transactions, you wouldn't want to block 999,000 of them. But it doesn't stop any individual person from being blocked on the network. And we had to look through all the documentation for Ethereum. Vitalik just recently posted something in Reddit, one of the forum posts about that, saying that he doesn't believe it's a big enough issue, which it is, because with enough money, you can kind of sync any of those networks and not sync them, but you can basically decide what's true and what's not true. And that's really a problem that people don't talk about enough, is that to have a proper decentralized system means you can't have a system that's corruptible for a long time by any individual party. Doesn't matter how much money they have, doesn't matter how much computing power they have. Doesn't matter how many coins I have. So to have a system that ticks all those boxes is insanely hard. Like Moxie, the founder of Signal, he's on the board of. He's involved with a cryptocurrency called Mobile Coin. That's basically a copy paste of Monero with some changes to make it a little more centralized and a little more controlled. But even that project assumes that parts of the network are good. Like it's assuming that there's some outsourced trust there, which you can't have in any of these network systems that deal with decentralization. You can't have assumed trust. So that's what we've been spending quite a lot of our time the last few months just thinking about. We've got lots of possible solutions for it. None that we really have settled on and liked, but that's something we'll look at in the future. But right now the system's good enough that people can start using it for things. But yeah, it's one of those things where no one really talks about. Like there was a post done. It was actually one of the transactions when this whole gotta go back a bit more. When Craig Wright started claiming he was the creator of Bitcoin, we went into this a couple of weeks ago as well. That one of those early wallets actually posted that the solution to Bitcoin's scaling problem is not really going to be Lightning or changing a few variables to make it the block size is bigger or smaller or faster or whatever. One of those early wallets really hinted at the fact that, and we have a screenshot, we sent it around to some people in the office here, that it was completely ignored by all crypto media. No one even focused on this line. They just talked about the Craig Wright line, that Craig Wright is not the creator of Bitcoin. But there was a really important line there that said that the way to solve the blocking and the scaling issues with Bitcoin is to think much more deeply about how the network is transacting itself. And that went completely over people's head. No one even focused on that line at all.
Yeah. And Rob, that's the beauty of where I say 21 January 2022. It's quite a momentous time because you've taken elements of proving with the testing, and we'll do, as we said, we'll follow up, and I'll disclose in a minute how the 43 will be picked up. But that in itself is that they're 4 to 5 years behind us in trying to get to the reduction of the overload and the flow rates of what you've achieved with that data and the way in which it operates and validates itself amongst the peers, and giving the peers the comfort that they know they're receiving and sending without that double spend, of course.
Yeah, everybody's solution right now, like you've seen a lot of solutions where it really comes down to, if you want things to be faster on a network, you centralize a bit more. That's what Solana's doing. That's what a lot of these sort of proof of stake, newer layer ones coming out are all doing. You give people more and more incentive not to mess with the network by basically giving them bigger transaction fees or a bigger clip or something like that. So to actually make something spread and scale across lots of people where almost anyone can participate with a little bit of work, not very hard at all, is really hard to do, where it doesn't suddenly create a lot of incentive to kind of sort of flex the system in the way you don't want it to flex.
Yeah. Well, Rob, without further ado, I'm going to talk to everybody, ladies and gentlemen, as to the way in which we'll roll out version 77 next week. Now, this is all on my head, ladies and gentlemen. This doesn't come from the developers like Rob and even the marketing teams shudder when they think that I make these calls because, Alan Endres is not always the right person or appropriate in things he does or doesn't do. And generally, for me, having been through the issues and you've seen all my videos and all the background, I don't give a rat's ass because my objective at the end of the day is that we know we're onto something massive. This is bigger than both of us, and Robert myself. And once it flies, there'll be no stopping it. It's an unstoppable trip to Mars.
That's a good point, actually. On that point, like people don't realize that, again, a properly decentralized system. You notice, like you'll see if you follow the crypto news, OpenSea right now, the NFT marketplace, they can ban NFTs and it comes up in your wallet as a banned NFT in your crypto wallet. Like that is a centralized system right there. So people think. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, Rob, that's exactly what the gentleman you picked up and sent me that note from Signal said. He replicated 3
Moxie,
NFTs.
yeah.
Just tell us about that quickly, because people are going to lose and blow money up their ass on NFTs.
Oh yeah, it's something we've talked about a lot with NFTs already. Like NFTs are really not done well. Most of it are just centralized, stored somewhere on someone's server somewhere for a little while. And really, they're supposed to be fixed. So that obviously the whole point of NFTs is non-fungible, meaning you can't change it once it's created. But the founder of Signal, the messaging app, that encrypted messaging app, did a really cool experiment a little while ago, just recently, where he actually made an NFT that kept changing. And he actually got banned from OpenSea, the biggest NFT marketplace, for doing that. and then in his wallet, that NFT disappeared from his wallet. So the current state of crypto, Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, they're not as decentralized as people think. It's very easy to control things with a bit of money. So that's not safe. That's no different to having a banking system. A proper decentralized system has to be, that anyone can participate in, and it's very, very hard to kill or steer in a specific direction.
Well, and that's the trouble, isn't it, Rob? Because you get, here we are being methodical and meticulous in terms of the way we want to see it rolled out and what we're doing and taking time, and that irritates some people, and others, the majority of the population of our coin holders are delighted with that to make sure we get it right. But there's a trap happening that when you see that the founder of Signal creating those sort of NFTs and warning people in a paper that, if anybody's interested and they want to get that hold of that paper, send us a note to support@zucoins.com and we'll on-forward it. It's a disaster train wreck waiting to happen. And you watch, the media will be all about the scams and plonk everybody in the same boat again.
Exactly.
But we have very short memories. I mean, it's all right for Main Street to go off and bag crypto. And I'm still a fan of Bitcoin because that's it's a bit like I'm a great fan of, Netscape. No one even knows what that is now. I'm so old. But someone has to start it somewhere. And those things created the Googles of the world and where we see, Apple is a $3 trillion company and so on. It's got to start somewhere. But we tend to forget that the real world has its fair share of, scams and things. You've got company directors knocking off money. You've got stock exchange shares that collapse and people lose their money. I've seen that in the 80s with the major corporations, Bond Corp. And even, of course, more recently, you see that you've got the bigger banks that seem to lay low despite fully funding the drug cartels and getting fines and $35 billion of anti-money laundering losses and things. But as soon as it comes to some crypto, everybody's sort of tainted with this, tarred with the same brush, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a bit weird. It goes back to what we were saying before. Like, we're trying to build something, a piece of infrastructure that will last hopefully for a long time. If we wanted to just sort of chuck another new crypto system out there, we could have done that a long time ago. Lots of people do that, like hundreds every day get released that are just copy paste of other networks, or most of them even tokens based on other networks. But to build something from scratch and actually solve the problems that these other networks haven't been able to solve yet, and it's been over 10 years, it's quite hard.
Oh, you've done a great job, Rob. Well, without further ado, then again, let me say that the vast majority of our great ZuCoin early adopters, the feedback has been sensational. They are very grateful for their early entry prices. They understand what this means in the future for the value of their coins and where that leads to, thanks to your hard work, Rob, and also the marketing teams. And we've got a great bunch of people here. We don't run 10,000 employees. And, I think you mentioned it the other day. You said, why don't they solve these problems? Well, you can throw billions of dollars at something. You just don't have the intellect, other people to make that work. It's not necessarily how you solve problems.
No, it's not money. Like we mentioned, like we talked about the other day. Exactly. There was a post by Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin on Reddit, and he literally said he doesn't have the budget to solve the problems with Ethereum, which is insane. Like that's insane. They're worth hundreds of millions of dollars of people involved in that project. So it's not a factor of money that solves these problems. It's a factor of, you really have to think hard about. It gets down to the nature of what is true. Like, how do you prove something's true? That's what it gets down to, mathematically as well, not just like socially. But mathematically, you have to prove what is true, and that's one of the really cool things that we figured out. We have like a really, really nice diagram that we can actually break through and say, if these things happen, this has to be true. Like, it has to be true. Yeah. We have a lot of little things as well in the system that we probably won't go into too much now because it's too technical, but we have a thing like we can determine like if something strange is happening on a network, whereas lots of other systems try to determine what's the first thing to happen. Like every other blockchain, the top 10, they all try and look at what's the first thing that did something, and that is what's considered true. But it's very easy to game if you know what you're doing. With ours, basically, we just detect if something's anonymous, sort of something that sticks out, basically. If we find something that sticks out, we can basically just discount that whole section rather than trying to figure out what comes first, which is very different to how every network works. But it's a small detail, but it's an important detail.
Yep. No, perfect, Rob. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Now, this is my brainchild. So we have 2,353 wonderful early adopters of ZuCoins. We have approximately 90 98% of those people are fantastic, absolutely sensational. They, through thick and thin, they understand it. They've been backing us, and they may have a bit of angst, some of them, but certainly they understand, Robert, what we're doing and how we roll this through. And our program hasn't changed in terms of the inevitable listings, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we do have 1.8% of wombats. Let's just leave it at that. Wombats, 1.8%. 43 hard ass, pain in the neck, but they have put money in. They are part of it. They don't want to budge either because they refuse to get their orders cancelled. So you got to put up with these people, and some of them are quite rude to the staff. So you sort of, you look at that and you say, how can you possibly be on planet Earth? I mean, it's just extraordinary. So what I've decided is that I know who the 43 people are. There's some men and women. Some of the women are more aggro than the blokes, to be honest. And I understand all of the issues about time and the money. That's, I'd like to be a billionaire. When I say me, again, it's my trusts, Robert. So we've got that clear in case others are listening. Alan Endres doesn't own anything because of my litigation. But nevertheless, 43 of these people are the most excitable people you've ever seen in your life. That even on Christmas Day, instead of a Santa Claus present, we get a bit of abuse, which is quite extraordinary, Rob. So I find it quite funny, really, as I've done with the trolls. They're an amusing bunch of critters, but they're starting to get their own back, Rob. The new laws have come into play, and everybody's going to have to be identifiable soon if you want to play that game. So what I'm inviting, ladies and gentlemen, is that the 43 people who are the most angst, feel more aggrieved than anybody else that want their wallets, send an email to support@ZuCoins.com ASAP. Now, those that don't feel the angst and want to wait, the subsequent week when we all get wallets, or the following week after that if the testing's fine, because we're all going to get our wallets. I'm going to get mine too. I actually haven't tested the wallet. So I'm out there with the other 2,300 odd. But the 43, if you want to put your hand up and big note yourselves about it, and instead of going on and carrying on about the wallet and never getting it and scams and things, send your note to support@ZuCoins.com and you will be receiving a wallet and you will become our main testers. Next week, you'll be dealing with Robert, you'll be dealing with Peter, and we're going to see how you go. Because my theory is that this group of people, this 1.8% of the entire database, should be enough to see exactly the achievements that we feel we're going to accomplish as a result of the testing. So don't be scared, hiding behind your little anonymous things and things. We do have your phone numbers and we do have your emails, and then you try and hide, and then you try and jump into troll sites and carry on like pork chops. Now's the time to stand up. Stand up. I'm not going to bite you. You're part of the team. And I said to Rob yesterday, I said, now, for me, the analogy of you lot, you're still all part of my little gang. I'm treating this as a bit of an Ambrose golf day. Now, Ambrose. You get 4 mates together. Usually there's a captain. Robert, you're the captain in this example. You're playing your golf. There's usually 1 or 2 pretty good players, and there's always the pain in the ass. There's always a pain. He's a great guy or girl. Have a drink, you socialise, but you take them on an Ambrose golf day and they're a pain in the ass. They're whinging all the way through the entire 18 holes, Rob. They're chipping it out there. They're flipping it down the fairways. They can't putt for grief. They put it in the bunkers and they're carrying on. They don't stop, Rob. But guess what? We carry them. The captain carries them. The best shot of the day. Then they start again and they still hit it into the bunker. But then they get it on the green because Ambrose says it's the best shot of the day as it runs through the 18 holes. And you know what the good thing is, Rob? We're going to carry these 43 people. We're going to get to the last and get to a hole in one. That's what we'll do after this testing. It's all over. I mean, it's a big thing with the wallet. They can test the wallet and do all the complaints and things if it comes out or what doesn't work. And you'll be sitting there, Robert, monitoring all this stuff. But at the end of the day, because you win the competition as a team of people with 4 in Ambrose, we're all going to get on the drink and celebrate. No hard feelings. So that's the tactic. Let's get the thing out. Version 77. You'll be. We'll wait for your emails. Don't let us follow up with you because it's not going to be embarrassing that you've been carrying on like clowns. But let's bring it forward. Treat it as a golf game. Let's get out there, and we want those people to be the hardest, hard-ass testers of the wallet next week. So the rest of us can sit back and relax and enjoy it. We're going to
yeah, exactly. It's important to remember those people posting those sorts of things. We have a really good team here that are working really hard, and that everything online is traceable. Everything online. So you're not anonymous.
And that's coming from Robert, who's the ingenious creator of one of the world's greatest products you're ever going to see. So enough from me, everybody. We're at the point now. We wanted this update. The lucky 43 pain in the necks. They're going to enjoy the wallet first. You'll be able to share the experiences. You can go through it. Don't be worried if you find a problem. Robert's looking for problems.
Yeah, we're looking for problems. Just send it through to support@zucoins.com.
And if it doesn't work, well, we got a problem because we want you to make sure that millions of people can experience this, and we can make a truckload of money all together as we hit the 18th hole. We're looking for a hole in one. So, Robert, that's that part of the updates. Again, unfortunately, it's gone a bit longer than I hope, but I do have one major big announcement, Rob. It doesn't affect you as much. Well, it may do because you're going to have to build the completion of the APIs. But, ladies and gentlemen, whilst everybody's been, enjoying themselves over the Christmas break and having a good time, I have also been busy with the team. And interestingly, a few members of the team decided not to take the full break. They've come in and said, listen, we see how important this is, and they've got a vested interest. So congratulations to Liam Scammell and his team. I know Georgie's been working tirelessly behind the scenes. Matt, my son, Riley, he hides down there and he's beavering away the team. I know Vishnu's busy too on the other side. And a big thank you to Thorsten out of New Zealand, because, ladies and gentlemen, the due diligence was completed over the break, and literally, I've been waiting for this moment. So today, it had actually been signed about a week ago, but we'd officially signed it today to mark the 21st of January as a big occasion. This document here, ladies and gentlemen, is Bit4X. Now, Bit4X is not in your top 10. It sort of shunts out there at about the number 12 mark. And people would say, well, why would I be excited about that? Well, I'm excited because it's going to be one of the greatest marketing coups you've ever seen. Now, they're a great exchange. Don't get me wrong. They've signed. We've signed. Now, this contract, you may recall, came about because of a scam that we were dealing with people by recommendation, and they were sitting in the middle and pretending to be the exchange and waiting for us to send 80,000 USDT. And it turns out we did further due diligence, and thank goodness, but it gave us an intro to the CEO and founder of Bit4X, Mr. Lau. And as it turned out, they decided that ZuCoins looked pretty good. They went through Rob's technology. They've been through the due diligence process on our legal advices, which took 12 months through 3 different jurisdictions, UL.com, which we all forget about. And with all of that, we got approval to list on Bit4X. Now, Bittrex Global is still Robert's, pet child. Excuse me. We're listing there, and that's as soon as the wallets are finished testing, everybody gets their wallet. You've got that lead time, 3 to 6 weeks. Excuse me. But once, Robert, as I understand it, the API is in place with one exchange. In our world, it's almost a copy and paste to roll that out for the other exchanges. They're all working.
Yeah, the first one will take the most amount of time, as always, mainly because all these exchanges right now really just want Ethereum's ERC20 to communicate with. They want the API to work through that Ethereum standard, which is weird, which means everyone else who creates a new kind of cryptocurrency, no matter how different it is and no matter how cool it is, always has to go back off that Ethereum standard, at least for a little while. Solana and Cardano, they're having the same situation. So, yeah, that first integration will take a little bit of time, and the other ones after that will be much, much faster.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the significance of Bit4X, and there's some interesting stats that you should know about as an exchange. Now, my mind is not focused on the fact that it's going to be wonderful for you guys to come in and buy and sell and make a killing and as Robert said, we're not in for that quick buck. We want to see the value proposition being long term. I'll say it again, we should be 20% of the value of Bitcoin at some stage. Now, just remember, Apple took 20 years and was flatlining as a share price before someone woke up and said, this is a good thing. 20 years. Go and have a look at the chart. You ever look at the share chart of Apple? Now, I think, Robert, we're into what, a 4-year build? 3.5 years since we started ZuCoins?
Yeah, I'd say 3.5 years, and then probably 2 years full time. Like we started partially working on the side, and then we kept ramping it up more and more. And I'd say about 3.5 years with 2 years full on round the clock.
So we're well ahead of schedule.
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like if people saw our weekly technical notes, the product notes, how much goes into every week, it's like we could have a book thicker than the Bible right now. Like it's been a huge amount of work.
Well, that work has paid dividends because of the response we got on due diligence from Bit4X. Now, Bit4X, so you know, is in 200 odd plus countries. They've got 300 trading pairs. And interestingly, they've got 3.5 million active daily users. Now, that tops 5 million a day. And they are the only exchange that has the record of 1.6 million transactional orders per second. All right, so they're pretty powerful, and 98% of their coins are held in cold storage. So their security, they haven't been hacked. Now, there's been a lot of hacking over the journey since we've had that talk with Robert on the 24th. Coins have been knocked off and things have been accessed and all the rest of it. You read the negative stuff pretty clearly in the papers. There's no doubt about that. So this exchange is a good exchange in its own right that'll be running parallel with our APIs with Bittrex Global. The good news is they love ZuCoins. Now, they love it so much that they couldn't believe our marketing strategy. And we now got in a position where I'm delighted to say we do have a contractual commitment that through their database, they can't believe the QR code AR spinning coin download, which will connect to Robert's functionality, where when you see the spinning coin, and let me just refresh your memories for those that are new to the program. If you can just see that was done live this afternoon, and our AR team have been sensational. We're working it through so that the QR code in the media, or you can share it, you can use your phone just to screenshot it, move it on. You then can have a live spinning coin, which is you can see there now. And we're encouraging people that'll be everywhere, on the beach, up the snow, in the restaurant, covering your ass, whatever you want to do, right? And social media and influencers are coming part of this and so forth. Now, the great news is that QR code, in agreement with Bit4X, we will be distributing, as we said, to get out and about, 1 million ZuCoins that you touch on that spinning coin, and it downloads immediately the wallet, and one ZuCoin, which is worth on our current sales $100 per coin. So what I love about the Bit4X contract is that they were prepared to see ZuCoins, which they couldn't believe, be distributed with instantaneous download just simply through that AR technology, of which, by the way, the team and Robert and everybody were the innovators in terms of being the business award winners for 2020. So that's getting refined so great now that you could imagine that spinning coin not only contains the link that allows the wallet and the coin to be instantly downloaded, but it can also contain the value vouchers that the overall business has, whether that's $100 for TV sets or holidays and so forth, and becomes a major marketing tool. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a distribution for 5 million people, minimum 3.5 million active users, which is an exciting floor of tech heads, day-to-day crypto people that know about crypto will be in that, in addition to our global marketing strategy for mainstream through the media, newspapers, and social media, etc. So that's official today. I'm excited, and that's why we are as eager as anybody that you do the testing, you get it right. Robert signs off, and it's a goer. not only do 2,353 people get excited with the wallet, but we got the distribution in our campaign to millions of people. And of course, millions of people equals transaction volumes. The exchanges know that they're going to be in demand for coins. And, if demand exceeds supply, you don't have to be Albert Einstein to do the formula on that. We know what that means in very simple terms. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my updates. I don't know whether you've got much more, Rob, you want to touch on. You just want to get back in the thick of it. And we want these 43 people in kind words, our little wombat group, to ASAP. Don't be scared. Come good. Start those emails flooding through this afternoon, and let's get on with it and hit our straps next week to keep you busy testing, Rob, with them.
Yeah, that's all good. I've got nothing else to add. That's all I wanted to cover this episode.
Fantastic, Rob. I appreciate your time. I don't like wasting your time because you're better off coding as you're going through. So thank you very much, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, signing off, Alan Endres, it's ZuTime. Reflect back, have a look at this episode again, and we'll be in touch. We will be in touch with you. Don't worry. We know you want updates. Just sit back, be patient, and the team will get updates out. But cheerio and all the very best. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, guys.